Next time you're in Dollar Tree, head on over to their frames section and grab a couple. Just mix and match them. Frames are a great way to create cohesive collections, and we're going to be using a napkin to tie them all together. I went with 3 frames, 2 the same design, and 1 was a little bit larger, and it was a little bit on the half. Really? They just snapped right on off. It's okay anyway, we don't really need those, right? I took the glass pieces out of each one of these frames and put them off to the side because we are going to be putting them back in the frames in just a little bit. A cool hack if you don't have poster board and you want to skip painting and prepping for decoupage for something like this is to grab one of Dollar Tree's boxes. I usually keep these around in my stash. They're easy to just trace on, and they're also easy to just cut on out. So I took the size of the frames, measured them on up, and then trimmed them down to size so we can use them for the backing to put the napkins on. And if you want to paint the pieces in the frames and use that, I've done that too, and that works just fine. I didn't really care for the color of this frame, and it didn't really go so cohesively with the other 2 frames. So I grabbed some paint to paint it, and it turned out like doo-doo brown. I didn't really like the color of this paint either. I'm sorry. After scrounging around for a second, my little paint collection there, I was able to find a brown that, you know, served our project here a little bit better. Obviously, paint yours whatever color you want. Next, I took the pieces that I cut out and put in different sections on the napkins that we wanted to put in the frames. And another cool idea, if you wanted to use multiple napkins for your cohesive collection, is to take a napkin with similar colors or a similar theme. It doesn't have to be the same exact napkin. I removed the top decorative layer of the napkin so we could decoupage onto our boxes. Now, you could absolutely skip this part and just put your napkins in the frame and the glass and be all done. But I never skip out on an opportunity to decoupage, even just a little bit. So I grabbed my good old Mod Podge here, and I grabbed a fan brush and put a very, very thin layer on top of our little cardboard boxes and placed our napkin pieces on them. Not only is this another creative way to use those beautiful decorative napkins you see around in stores, it's also a great way to put old frames to use, new frames to use, and create something different in your decor. If you're not picking up these 11 by 14 inch canvas panels at Dollar Tree, you might be missing out on making some stunning, budget-friendly, large DIY decor. For the base, we're going to be using this beautiful napkin, and for the main decor, it's going to be this little pumpkin piece I picked up from Dollar Tree. I love napkins like this that have a repeated pattern. They make great backgrounds. To apply the napkin, I'm just going to take some good old Mod Podge and apply a nice, thick, juicy layer all over this large canvas. It has been my experience that one of the best ways to decoupage on a canvas, especially something large, is just to do the iron-on method. So we're going to do this and let it completely dry naturally. You can skip this next part if you want, people, but for me, these pumpkins were too close together. I wanted to spread them out just a smidge, so I separated them. Since the pumpkin is damaged, and I don't really think this pattern's gonna match our background anyway, I just decided to remove all the things on the top of this. I'm gonna take some calcium carbonate to create some texture in my paint. This is a great way to give your paint a little bit of oomph. It doesn't matter if you use acrylic. I get better results if I mix acrylic with chalk paint, or if I do with chalk paint, because chalk paint's already thick. So I mixed them up together and then just took a brush and tappity tap tap tapped that texture all over our piece, and I put 2 coats on this. It looks really cool, and you can see even just after the 1 coat, you already got a nice base. Once our canvas panel was dry, it was time to bring on in the iron. Now you can use any iron to do your iron on method. I usually keep this little joint right next to me in my craft station, and that's what I'm using. Make sure before you get started, you take a second to remove those sneaky layers off the back of that top decorative layer. We won't need them. I used some parchment paper to put down over the napkin while we're ironing it on, and I just moved from one side to the next. There was a little overhang with the napkin, so I just tore that excess off. You could absolutely leave this how you want. I wanted to put a little frame on here and just grab some popsicle sticks and trimmed them down. For the corners, I put my miter shears at a 45-degree angle. If you don't want to use popsicle sticks for this, you could absolutely get some little inexpensive trim pieces from Home Depot, cut them down. I'm just taking some of my Tite Bond to attach everything. You could use hot glue, whatever works for you. You can even stain your pieces. I decided to keep mine neutral. And people, if you want to seal over your decoupage portion before you add your accents on, go right ahead. It is not going to hurt anything. Put a layer of Mod Podge on there, a layer of liquid patina, whatever. Allow that to completely dry overnight and then add your accent pieces. For the sake of time in this project, and I feel like most of the time I'm pretty much just giving y'all ideas, I did not. I used my hot glue and my wood glue to attach everything, and look how awesome this turned out. Just another creative way for you to make home decor with napkins. It's that time of the year again, and Dollar Tree is usually full of foam pumpkins. Hate them or love them, they are a good base start for tons of DIY projects, like this decoupage pumpkin we're about to create. There are so many creative ways you can decoupage these joints, but I'm gonna share a super easy one with you that will save you a ton of time prepping for that design on the back end. I'll show you what I mean in just a second. First, let's prep this bad boy by taking a little bit of Mod Podge and a little bit of multi-surface and mixing it together in a bowl. Yep, you're welcome. You get to share the paint farts with me. Moving on. Once you have that all mixed together, put a nice layer all over your pumpkin. And I know what you're thinking, Brandy, it's already white. Why are we prepping the foam? Well, I'll tell you why. Foam, for the most part, has an uneven surface. So mixing some Mod Podge and some multi-surface together and putting a layer over it is really filling in all those uneven little sections. So once you apply your decoupage, it's not going to be sinking in any holes. It will kind of lay smoothly over your piece. But who am I to tell you what to do? Decoupage how you want, skip this part. For that easy solution I was telling you about, you're going to want to pick a napkin like this that has the repeated pattern all over the whole piece. Make sure to remove all those sneaky layers off the top decorative piece because we're not going to be needing them. Now, a lot of people will paint the pumpkin and then they will spend a ton of time cutting out little designs and do what I like to call is patchwork. And if you're new to decoupage, and even if you're a seasoned decoupager, doing a whole piece like this can be a pain in the booty, wrapping one solid thing around something that's a cylinder. So a good easy trick is having a napkin that has a pattern like this, or using tissue paper with a pattern like this, and then cutting it in strips. Well, I'm using a paintbrush with a little bit of water. Make sure they're thick enough and rigid on the ends. I don't feel like using a pair of scissors gives you a clean, bonded look in the creases. I like using that ripped, torn edge. I feel like it blends better. You apply a thin layer of Mod Podge and then do your strips in sections. This is going to allow that design to show through on your pieces of the pumpkin, and then you can go back in putting smaller pieces in other sections, kind of matching up where the pattern is skipped. This saves you the struggle of trimming out those intricate designs, especially if you struggle with hand grip issues like I do, or just have some arthritis in your hands. This will help minimize the amount of time you're cutting out little tiny pieces to apply onto something, creating a patchwork piece to incorporate for a whole design. This still gives you a really cool, clean look without having a ton of overlapping pattern because you're spacing it out. And yes, you can seal over this. I would recommend allowing it to dry 24 hours before you pop a layer of sealer over there. If you try and do it while it's wet, it's a good chance the napkin gets so moist you might notice some tearing. I'm taking some painter sticks I had in my stash. They're a little large, okay, I'll admit it. They were probably a little bit bigger than I was thinking they were originally for the stem. Create whatever stem you want, you know what I mean? Originally, I think I was going to do like some Reynolds wrap and then put some clay over it, get real crafty. And I'm like, I ain't got that time because we were already spending days doing this. So I'm like, we're just gonna take some twine, pop it around the paint stick. We're gonna grab some messy moss, add some accents in there. Oh, and here's the funny, I did not know that these suckers were hollow. When I was cutting this, I was like, oh, okay. So I had to stop for a minute and like hold the paint stick in where the twine was to make sure it glued on there so it didn't just fall on through the hole. And what's even funnier to me is as it's happening, I'm like, how many of these have I crafted over the years? And I'm just now figuring this out. Have you seen the awesome ceramic pieces Dollar Tree has been coming out with lately? Not only do they have this design, but they have several others. And one of the cool things I've seen as well recently are the little animals. I picked up some of those along my way too. Not because I have a craft hoarding problem or anything. Anyhow, back to the little ceramic vase. So if you're not familiar with these, they're porous, so we're gonna need to put us a nice base coat. I'm just gonna take some of my Folk Art multi-surface in the white and put 2 layers all over this vase and allow it to completely dry naturally. Rae Dunn has an amazing collection of napkins. If you've ever had the opportunity to get a hold of some, you will find that a lot of hers have her beautiful font on it, and they have cute little accented pieces on here. In my comments, one of the largest things I hear people complain about is they struggle with stencils. And another one is that they struggle with stamping as well, messing up projects. An easy way to not use stencils and not use stamps is to find napkins that have words on them. And I know a lot of people are like, if they have words on them, they won't mess with them. But taking the word out of a napkin and applying it onto a piece is a real simple, easy way to have that design and alleviate the struggle you're having with stencils or your struggle you're having with stamping. If you're able to, use a pair of scissors and trim it down as close as you can to the words. You'll see here I'm just taking a little bit of water on a paintbrush and I'm tearing it gingerly around the word. This is going to help keep that edge around the napkin not noticeable. So on your piece that you're creating, you won't have some weird funky edge just kind of sitting around there, to be a little bit more blended in. And as you can see here, I did this quickly. I could have did this slower and made the words, there are a couple little sections where it overlapped, but if you take your time, you could absolutely have this on here pretty perfectly. I wanted to grab some of my TDS Rub on transfers and just put some teeny tiny accents on here to add a little bit of extra. I hope you guys really like this idea of a different way to kind of look at napkins that have words on them to help you create your own unique creative decor in your home. If you're in need of more napkin inspiration, check out this video right here. As always, people, thank you all so much for hanging out with me today, and until next time.